Yeah.
My brother? Oh, he's going to rehab. He busted his, did you hear about Tina's husband, motorcycle? Tina?
Oh, yeah. They're friends.
He broke his pelvic and feet areas and his leg,
And his feet, femur, not a femur, his lower leg was sticking out of skin.
yeah.
That's a compound fracture.
He got an old, someone sold him an old BMW motorcycle. He has a new big wagon. And for some reason, he came up behind his buddy with a Harley. He ran into the chest. His buddy got a broken ankle, but he had a new Harley that was ruined. I haven't seen him since I got back.
If you broke his pelvis and feet area, I worry about these different like this.
Yeah, yeah.
My dad had an infection of screw.
That's our artificial intelligence. It's blonde. You got 1 minute, guys. You're almost ready. Dan and Mario, do you guys mind sharing a microphone or I'm sorry. We're gonna get that straightened out.
I've never seen it that work.
Watching time. Okay. Here's the clink. Ladies and gentlemen, I am going to open the Village of Vernon Village Board and Plan Commission meeting. Today is Wednesday, October 6th at 6 p.m. We're at the Vernon Town Hall. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance of the flag and a moment of silence? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Brad, can you do open meeting compliance and roll call plan commission and village board?
Yes. Should be. President Shu.
I'm here.
Trustee Pecca.
Here.
Trustee Finch.
Here.
Trustee Newman.
Here.
Trustee Millies.
Here.
Commissioner Noack.
Here.
Commissioner Rinaldi.
Here.
Commissioner Alex.
Here.
This meeting is noticed and posted according to law.
Thank you, Brad. The first agenda item we have is a public hearing, and I'm going to read the notice and I'll explain the procedure to the audience. Notice is hereby given a public hearing by the Village Vernon Board and Plan Commission will be held on Wednesday, October 9th, 2024 at 6 p.m. at the Vernon Town Hall located at W249 South 8910 Center Drive to consider a request from the Village of Vernon Planning Commission and the Village of Vernon Board to amend Chapter 300 of the Village of Vernon Zoning Code to allow for an accessory residential dwelling unit, a second unit on one lot, as a conditional use in agricultural and residential districts. Ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to state what I was going to have Sean do is give an overview of what the Plan Commission has been studying for the last couple meetings. And then what we're going to do is open the floor up for public comments. And then after those public comments are done, the Plan Commission and Board will give comments also. And if they don't give a lot of comments, it's only because they talked about it a lot. And we'll bring it back to the Plan Commission, back to the Board until everybody's done with giving their comments related to the public hearing. So at this point in time, I'm going to ask Sean Malarkey, our Zoning and Planning Administrator, to give an overview of the secondary accessory dwelling unit. Sean?
Yeah, thanks. And so just to recap, we have been talking about this for some months. We've always had, or for a lengthy period of time, we've had in-law units in our zoning ordinance as a conditional use, which allows residents to come in and essentially ask for permission to put something that's attached to the unit on their property as a second unit. It would have its own bathroom and kitchen and so on and so forth, but it wouldn't appear like a second unit. It would look like a single-family residence. Again, that's a conditional use. We had petitioners come forward and essentially put forth the idea of allowing detached accessory dwelling units as well. So not only in-law attached units, and in-law is just really a name for a secondary unit. Essentially, it has to be occupied by a family member of some sort. So accessory dwelling units would be similar, but what we've done is we moved in-law units from the code in the draft language, and then added in the attached and detached accessory dwelling units. And so we've talked about this at some length over a series of meetings. We have some draft language in front of us that we've modified over the months. And I'll just quickly go through what some of these conditions would be. So conditional use, you have to come forward, you have to ask for permission. We look at surrounding properties and so on to make sure it's compatible. But an accessory dwelling unit in Vernon, under this new proposed language, would be no more than one would be allowed per parcel or lot. The living area of the accessory dwelling unit is limited to 800 square feet, unless it's a 2-bedroom, and then it's up to 1,200 square feet. You can't exceed that. You can't exceed more than 2 occupants per bedroom. It'd be subject to all requirements of the zoning district. A lot or parcel of land containing an accessory dwelling unit has to be occupied by the owner of the property. The owner can live either in the accessory dwelling unit or the principal dwelling unit. And there'll be a deed restriction required to this effect to be recorded with the county register of deeds. Both units would have to share a driveway, whether they're attached or detached. At least one parking space is to be dedicated for the accessory unit. Both units would share the same utility meters. Exclusively for detached dwelling unit, accessory dwelling units, they wouldn't be allowed on parcels less than 3 acres in size or in platted subdivisions. So you have to have at least 3 acres. You can't be in a platted subdivision. They have to meet all the requirements of our accessory structure ordinance, and then the square footage would count toward the maximum building area, just like if it was a detached garage. Can't have a basement if it's new construction. Architectural design has to be compatible with the home. The orientation would have to maintain the privacy of surrounding residential properties. The Planning Commission can require additional screening to ensure that happens. Again, it has to appear as a one single family unit if it's attached. If it's detached, the accessory dwelling has to complement the principal residence and avoid any indications of a separate property. The accessory dwelling unit shall meet all applicable residential building codes and sanitary codes. Waukesha County has to certify that the septic system is adequate. Accessory dwelling units can't be sold separately. The conditional use permit that grants the accessory dwelling unit can be reviewed by the Planning Commission Board for compatibility with surrounding neighborhood. If the ADU becomes a nuisance, it could potentially be terminated per Section 300 of the Code of Ordinances. So in addition to those specific requirements for accessory dwelling units, we've also made some other changes to the ordinance with definitions, what defines a dwelling unit, et cetera, et cetera. So just some cleanup work to sort of fit them into the ordinance themselves. So that's the introduction. That's what we're looking at for the specific language. We haven't heard from the public yet on this, and so that's what the purpose of tonight's meeting is.
Thank you, Sean. So what I'd like to do now, if you would like to come up and make a comment, if you could please come up to this little desk here. If you could state your name and address so we can enter that into the record. And like I said, we'll take as many public comments as we need from the public, and then we'll turn to the Plan Commission and Board and back to the public until everybody's said their piece. So is there anybody that would like to step forward? Erica, you want to come? And Erica, we know who you are, but if you could state your name and address.
Good evening, Erica Connor, Junior House Number S63W22685, Town Line Road. Obviously, you guys have heard from me before, you know where I stand, so I'm not going to take a lot of your time tonight, but I just wanted to thank you very much for bringing it to public hearing tonight to hear from other people. I read over the proposal today, and I just really appreciate how clean the language is. I think some of the lines that you just shared, Sean, this evening really make it clear that the purpose behind this is to support families. And I know when we first talked about it with you guys, for me, this is about a family value that we should be able to extend, hopefully, to family members that we can take care of and give dignity to in their own private space. And I think that shines through with the language just saying the way that it is stated. I have been on the phone with a lot of people. This was posted on social media, and people have contacted me, and they have indicated that they'd like to send emails. I don't know if you've received any or not, but one in particular asked if I would speak on her behalf. I'm just going to share, Jane Craig has been in the community for a long time, and she had been on the village board for apparently around 10 years. And she shared her benefit is she lives in a in-law home on one property next to her children. They have been grandfathered in, but it has not been a divided property. She said it's been a huge blessing for them as a family to be able to keep it in the family, to be able to live next door to her children, help raise grandchildren, and get care taken as well for her. She pointed out 2 other residences that were also grandfathered in at the same time as her situation. One, the Smith family on Highway L, and the Doble family on Center. She wanted to point out that these properties have remained over the generations in the family. So as we've heard some of the concerns, like what if people rent these out afterwards, there have been concerns like how do we enforce these things. The cases that we do know that were grandfathered in have not appeared to be a problem, and they remained in the family and living out the exact purpose that I would hope that this amendment would serve as well. Also, while talking to people, there are a number of people that would not come and speak today because they didn't want to get their neighbors in trouble, because they said, well, no, I have neighbors that have converted their garage without permission. So one of the comments and concerns that I have heard was, if we do this, we're going to open a can of worms. I just want to point out, unfortunately, it appears as though the can of worms exists. And I think by giving our community the right way to do this, by coming before you, by having an opportunity to actually apply for a conditional use, it gives them an opportunity to do it the right way, above board, and all of those concerns that we have had and we've talked about how do we enforce things, you're now aware that they exist. You can now actually have better tabs on things, and I would feel better about that in my community if people had a way to come to you and ask for permission, and if they can meet the conditional use, to give that granted. I think there's also a lot of comfort for me that it is conditional use, that it's not permitted use. I love the fact that it does need to look similar to the home, because you could build an outbuilding that doesn't have to at all look like your home, and it can just be permitted. So I do like the continuity of this and just the family value behind it, and I think this is actually a very safe way to be able to address the concerns that have been raised over the last couple of months. So thank you so much for taking the time to put this together, to bring it before the community. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Erica. Is there any additional public comments? Sir? And once again, if you could just state your name and address, sir.
Chris Grunwald, W254S7620 Hilo Drive. Erica brought it to my attention that she was going through the process trying to get this change made, and I'm a contractor, so I regularly deal with zoning issues and trying to, a lot of times the code doesn't necessarily, there's situations in which the code was put in place to try and protect from, things that the community doesn't want. And I think, especially after hearing the verbiage, I think, it makes sense. I know I've dealt with a few people trying to do ADUs and stuff like that, and it seems to be becoming more popular these days. It costs a lot for senior living home, and people want to be with families. So, I think it makes sense.
Thank you. Any other public comments, sir? We can come together.
Then the record.
My name's Dan Wilcox. I live at S75 W23680 Vernon Hills Drive, and we're friends with my wife Tammy is here. She doesn't want to come on, but we're friends with the Connors, and we've talked about this issue in Vernon as far as having an accessory building that is available to family, and that's what it really does come down to is family. My dad died 2 weeks ago, and we're going through his house right now. We put my mother into a care facility, and because we don't have anything like that at our home. So this is like, the timing of this issue is kind of personal with us, but we don't have the ability to, take care of my mother, put her in our home, and it certainly would be nice to be able to do something like that and have that used to be the norm, and it isn't that way anymore. Now you just ship off your mom and dad or your mother to some kind of care facility who takes all of her assets and agrees to take care of her, And none of that wealth is then transferred down to the surviving beneficiaries and children. That's all gone to these corporate entities, you know, and this is, you know, families wanting to take care of their families and give them a little dignity in the last years of their life, you know, and have the ability to do that. So, we support it. That's something that we certainly would have liked to have done, that we can't, because we just don't, you know, we certainly have the acreage to do it, but we don't have a building and the finances and you know, the time to do it. There certainly is a lot of people that I'm aware of that have done it, like Erica brings up, where they converted a garage, or they built an accessory building, and then after the inspector comes, then they put the mother-in-law suite, and then, you know, upstairs, and everybody knows when I say mother-in-law suite what it is. We all know that term because that's how we used to take care of our parents, our elderly population. And I don't know when that changed, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. So this isn't something new of taking your responsibility as your children is to, they took care of you, and now it's your responsibility to take care of them. And take care of them is not just shuffling them off to some retirement home that's run by some corporation that is just concerned about getting all their money out of them, not so much, you know, with personal care. So I agree with Erica. People should be able to, you know, build a small accessory building on their property, whether it's attached or detached, and, you know, for the purpose of taking care of, you know, your surviving parents. That's the way we used to do it, and I think that's the way we should get back to doing it. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments and my sympathies to you, sir. Additional comments, public, sir?
Name is John Glass, S73W26355 Mount Rainier Drive. I had the honor and privilege of bringing both my father-in-law in the house to live with us in his old age, and my father just for a little bit. As the other people have said, that's totally uncommon. With my father-in-law, we had a 900 square foot house. He lived in our living room for 9 months. It would have been nice to be able to do what this ordinance says. And again, just with family values, and you see families breaking up, and I think this is just another way to keep the family together. I know my family often talks about, hey Dad, why don't you buy a big lot of land so we all can live on it? That's not what this is, I understand that. But on the same token, moving forward in life, to have that option, I think would be awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Additional comments from the public? Ma'am, miss?
I live in Vernon with my husband and our 4 children. Our address is W268 South 8585 Alpine Drive. And I would also like to second what Erica said, just having a uniform policy would be nice. I grew up in a large family with 13 siblings, and currently my mom has stage 4 breast cancer, which is spread to her bones. So we were talking about, you know, what do we do with mom if my dad's not the healthiest? And just being the oldest girl, like everyone kind of looks at me like, well, you've got 6 acres in Vernon, and my husband, like, your mom's not living with us. It's not happening. I'm like, I get that because they're very similar personalities, and that just wouldn't work out. And we don't, like, with 6 people in the house and a dog, so 7, you know, there's just not the space. And I'm like, I'm not gonna, like, move her to the barn in the back, like, you know, but just having, like, something close enough to be able to care for ourselves if need be would be very nice. And like you said, also just the living room isn't the best place. So, but that's all.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the public? And we'll come back if, I just don't want you to think that we're cutting you off, but, Plan Commission and board members, I know we've talked, several meetings, we've talked at staff with the attorney there also. So if you don't hear a lot of comments from the Plan Commission, they've talked a lot about this. And of course, Sean drafted a great, and I did announce at our last board meeting, so, people knew that we were going to be talking about this. But I turned to the Plan Commission and Village Board to ask if there's any comments from either body at this point.
I brought up last month about not including a basement in the new construction. I wasn't quite sold on that idea, and I was wondering if anybody else had any opinions in favor of basement, or really don't care. I mean, basement's nice for storage. At the same time, I don't want to see it, all of a sudden you got more people living in the basement. So I was kind of undecided about which way to go with that, and I'm still open to either or.
Yeah, I guess it was my understanding that where you're going with that restriction was keeping limits on this thing, and so that's one way to limit the growth of it, and making sure that not only is it, no one's gonna be living in the basement, but it's, you know, it's limited to what it is. It's a family member living there. It's, you know, it's not for rental to whoever it is as a place to live for just anybody to be living there.
Yeah, at the same time, when the parents sell the house, why putting all this stuff, you know? That's why I was kind of undecided, like.
So you're second guessing that?
Yeah, I haven't decided on that either way. I was second guessing it last month, and I was hoping there'd be some input on that tonight, or kind of get a direction on it.
We'll come back. Any other comments from Plan Commission or Village Board? Mario?
Couple quick questions. Deep in this, under I, I don't understand the word, or where it reads, architectural design shall complement the principal residence.
Mario, can you speak up?
Yeah, the window openings and massing, what's?
So there could be we could use a comma.
Massing is a word?
Yeah, so in architectural terms, and I only know this because I went to school for architecture originally. Massing is essentially the mass of the building. So if you have certain components of a building that have certain mass, like, you know, you have a gable roof on this one, and so that would be mimicked in the mass of the accessory building. So massing and scale are two commonly used architectural terms.
I prefer more general people's language.
Okay. So give me a suggestion.
Come on, Mario, you're an engineer, get a word out.
I mean, you're really saying overall, right? Isn't that what you're saying?
What if we say scale? What if we say scale? Window openings and scale instead of massing.
Is that better, Mario?
Does that make sense?
Much better. And under J, I just want to keep the perspective here. ADUs shall meet all applicable residential building codes, sanitary codes. Does that basically take care of everything as far as it has a kitchen, it has a bathroom, everything meets code, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a great way to cover it. There's no reason to duplicate any of that here. I just want to be clear.
Yeah, if someone's going to be living there, it's got to meet building codes, which means they have to have a kitchen and a bathroom and all those things.
Okay. And for everyone's edification, let's just be clear as far as how does this or does this not at all impact the accessory building limits, which we already have?
Yeah, so that would, I was trying to get at that under, which one is that? It's one of these, let me find it.
Isn't it in the matrix also, Sean?
Well, yeah, I mean, it is in the matrix, but he's asking specifically about, it's H, It's the second one in H, which are not numbered correctly, but it's, a detached accessory dwelling shall meet all requirements of 314 accessory structures and shall count toward maximum building quantity and aggregate square footage. So if it's detached, it counts as an accessory building, it counts to the number, it counts to the square footage of those.
So theoretically, some people may have to give up an accessory building for this dwelling.
Convert accessory building into
Or
this dwelling.
convert,
Right.
yeah. I just want people to be aware of that.
Mike?
That kind of brings up one thing that I was thinking about. What about, how do we view conversions? If it's in an agricultural district, and I know the idea of, oh, well, you know, I'm not gonna put grandma in the barn, but a barn conversion. Or even if it's a barn dominion, it's a new construction,
Sure.
so it wouldn't be if you've got you mentioned a gable-ended house, you know, with a wraparound porch, standard farmstead house, and then you have a barn next to it, to someone going through an agricultural district, that would look harmonious. Does that meet the idea of what we were just talking about before, massing?
I see what you're saying. So some leniency maybe for conversions of existing accessory buildings where it might not look, it might not have the same architecture as a house because it's already there.
Because I can make the argument, oh, it looks more harmonious and as if it's one property, if you see one principal dwelling and then another agricultural building that, yeah, I might think the horses are staying in there, but really it's, you know, human occupancy.
So what if so for detached accessory dwelling units designed to complement the principal residence, avoiding addition of a separate property, we just add a sentence or two in there that says existing buildings converted, you know, don't necessarily have to meet those same requirements.
What does it do for something like a barn dominium type of, that would be new construction, so it's not there, it's not a conversion. It's a term that people, I mean, because the thing is, you can build up to what, Sean, a 3,000 square foot accessory building?
You can go larger than that, it depends on what size your property
Right,
is.
so someone might be able to build a big building that they're gonna use 90% of it for whatever they're gonna use it for, and then 10% of it for
Yeah, you're still limited to 1,200 square feet for a two-bedroom, so you could carve out a portion of it to be used for that.
Yeah, and I'm seeing that being a very attractive thing to residents, to be able to say, oh yeah, we are gonna put a pole building out there, we are gonna have the expense and, you know, bringing in, it's gonna, like we talked about later, it's gonna be on service, it's gonna have sanitary sewer, to be able to take care of both of those in one building rather than saying, oh, I'm gonna use up, like Mario was saying, one of my accessory building units is a 900 square foot footprint residence and then still a pole building. I think that would be hard
Yeah,
to do.
okay, so I guess what I'm getting is that for detached, if it's existing, it's conversion of a building, it doesn't necessarily have to meet those same architectural standards. So that would be under I2, I would add some clarification to that.
Additional comments from the Plan Commission or Village Board? Dan?
I know Mario brought up the fact that you have to meet the building code. Building code doesn't allow bedrooms in the basement unless you've got
Egress, right?
I don't see any reason why we would eliminate basements.
I agree.
No, what we're saying, I mean, just to clarify, I think the basement was if you build a new detached accessory dwelling unit. We're saying no basement in that new accessory dwelling unit. Not that you can't put an accessory dwelling unit in an existing basement, you can do that if it's got egress. But the point was is that a new unit wouldn't have a basement. Right, a new accessory dwelling unit was already a principal, new accessory. The point is not to put another basement down there so that there's more and more people living potentially down there.
There's no way we can control that now in a single family home.
Well, we allow,
People want to do that.
no, I know. We want to allow that. We want to allow people to build in their basement now if they have proper egress
Right.
for that.
So why would we exempt this from that?
Why would we accept, so there's a principal and there's the accessory. We're just saying that the new detached accessory can't have a basement. The reason, and this wasn't I didn't include this in my conditions.
Yeah.
What it was put in is so that we don't exacerbate more and more people potentially living in the basement. It's 2 bedrooms and they have bedrooms down in the basement.
You're also taking square footage away from that home by putting the utilities upstairs.
Yeah, it's my big thing is mechanicals. if you force them to have a crawl space, it's hard to.
Yeah, and again, the basement wasn't my condition, so I think.
Yeah, it was just something I brought up last month, considering it, and I wasn't sure how I felt back then about it, but, I was just trying to prevent people from more living in the house than should. That was my only thought.
So it sounds like, Dan, you're saying you don't see a reason to eliminate the basement.
Right.
You're second guessing that. I mean, we're all kind of coming to consensus of just taking the condition out about the basement altogether.
That's kind of how I feel.
I think I would go with that too.
I mean, they still have the option, I guess, to build without a basement.
Yeah, if you just, I mean, it may be cheaper and easier to build without a basement, they may choose to do that.
And Sean, I don't know if you read the attorney's comments, but he's indicating that if we make any changes, we're gonna have to adjourn it, just so you know, adjourn it to the next, and renotice the additional language. So if there's any clarifications, if we already have one now, which is fine, because that's what.
Unless we're just cleaning up typos and things, and that's not an issue.
Can we eliminate things off of there?
Well,
Without having.
What is his comment?
his comments are pretty clear. If you're making any changes, not that that's, all we would do is we would adjourn it to next month and have Sean, draft the changes related to what we did at the public hearing. Because that happens at a public hearing where you make changes based on what second thoughts or thoughts from the public. So if there's anything else, and we're gonna go back to the public again too.
Yeah, and Mike, Alex's comment alone, we're potentially adding that to it. So even if we're striking this one about the basement, we're looking at adding other things as well, so.
And that's good. I just wanted to point out, not that it's a bad thing to, adjourn to next month, but I just wanted to point that out. If you can think of anything else that you'd like to bring up on it, that would be great too. Yuri, did you have a comment?
No, we're not on any timeline.
Well,
the village isn't, but the petition I brought it forward originally,
I plead the fifth. Any comment? Dan, did you have another
Are we
comment?
allowed to enter the attorney's comments about owner occupancy?
Oh, like I said, at the public hearing, you can enter any comments you want.
Can those be read in?
I know, Brad, you put the attorney's letter in there, right? I know you put the league's information.
Yeah, the initial, if you're referring to the report that's in front of you from the village attorney's memo, then that's not in the packet
No,
yet.
he's talking, wasn't there a letter?
There was a letter, yeah, he references it in the memo as well. It says, please review my letter as well as the information provided by the village planner. So he did previously submit a letter. It may not have been.
It's in the packet,
It's in the packet.
but I don't know if it addresses.
He does. He talks about the owner occupancy issue. I think he still contends. I'm paraphrasing here. You should find the exact letter that it's kind of unknown and untested as to whether or not it's
In Wisconsin, yeah, his memo stated that it's been turned down in some states already. If that's our intent, I don't know how it's gonna hold up.
I did, when you submitted the information about the town of Cedarburg, and their code, I don't know if that was in the packet as well.
Yeah, that was in there.
I did contact the administrator. In Cedarburg, you mentioned that they call them, secondary dwelling units, not accessory, and he mentioned that to his knowledge, it's been in there since 2007, no one's actually used that portion of the code. Because I asked them about the legality, if they were going to challenge on legality, because they required owner occupancy, they restrict short-term rentals as part of it. I just asked if it was challenged, they said no, because no one's ever, actually used that, so that wasn't a help. I know Economwalk's new code, our new accessory dwelling unit language doesn't have that requirement for restriction for owner occupancy.
I also question the legality of trying to limit the number of people in a bedroom.
Well, that's code.
And all the cases that the attorney's citing, none of it's from Wisconsin. It's all.
No, I think he's cautioning that if we put that in there, it's going to be, could be challenged at some point in the future. The big thing, whether it's legal or not, is just enforcing it. And we've talked about that. Is that you have a deed restriction that says only family members can live there, or you can't charge rent, or you can't, whatever it says, somewhere down the road, that's gonna be lost. The property's gonna be sold, people are gonna do what they want with the property, so.
We've heard that already, yeah.
If you-
Put
yeah,
running
if you-
garages into it.
100%, if you approve these detached accessory dwelling units and someone is paying money to put essentially a second house on the property, it's gonna be used one way or the other 10, 20, 30 years down the road, whether it's a family member living there or not, so. Just keep that in mind as you approve these. I mean, that may be the original intent, and that's a very noble intent, but who knows down the line, whether there's a deed restriction or not, how it's gonna be used. There's no way to enforce that.
Say we put it in there and, I mean, if we end up not enforcing it at some point, we'd be in the same position as if we just deleted it now.
That seems to be the public intent we're picking up on here, it's very family oriented. If we start off and saying, no family member needs to live there, that's.
Sure, I don't disagree, I'm just, we're just saying, that may be the intent and it's a good intent, but, 10 years when the property's sold, it just may be rented out to somebody else.
So Dan, what would you like you wanted to add something to the draft that Sean has put forth?
Well, I've come across a few errors in it, but does everything have to be?
Yeah, if you have those, I mean,
Seasonized and-
if you want to get them to me after the meeting too, and I can bring them for the next round.
Yeah, the grammatical, but I thought you wanted stronger language, or clarifying.
We can change it after the public hearing?
We're gonna have to
And go back.
Then we're coming back for another public hearing, so I'll bring back the corrected language.
Which public hearing are you asking?
It would be adjourned to next month.
Okay.
That's typically what we would do,
Yeah.
and that's what he's advising us. But we might hear more comments once we go back to the public again. So, and we'll come back to Plan Commission and Board, but what I'd like to do now is go back to the public. Sir, you had a comment, did you want to come up?
Yeah.
And just state your name, not you don't have to do your address, because we know where you live.
Yeah. Chris Grunwald. So in regards to the basement thing, I agree that it kind of doesn't, I don't know if it's important to make that distinction, because I could envision people with like 3 acres. I can't remember what the percentage is, but you get so many square foot per. So if, let's say, you have a 1,500 square foot availability, 800 square foot, ADU, you don't really have much extra storage for that, the garage side of things. So that's where, having a basement, would be nice. And just as a contractor, it's nice to be able to actually access plumbing, electrical, make updates, changes. And then in regards to what he was talking about, the overall look at the overall look of the exterior. So if you have a house and then an accessory building that looks like a house, at that point you look like you have 2 houses. I don't know if I would distinct that as being a necessity as much as more of an approved, visual, because like you're saying, if you have a house and you have a nice pole barn that, looks nice, colors, match, I feel like that would fit in more than having a house and then a pole barn that's pole barn style, or even just a big garage that has big gables. And I'm not saying that it can't be done, but to make that distinction, someone's like, oh, I want to build this accessory building to have Dad come live with us, it's very cost effective to make a pole barn style house. Now once you start throwing gables on and architectural things, now next thing you know you're spending an extra 30 grand to make it look like a house, when now you have 2 house looking buildings on one property. So that's just kind of my opinion. It would maybe more so focus on just an approved, some sort of verbiage about approved, that it looks good, and not that it has to specifically match.
And just to respond, if I may, that makes a lot of sense. The language is that it should complement the principal residence, so that's the idea. So even if you build like a garage that goes with your house, you want it to complement, right? You want the roof pitches to match, you want the same materials to be used, the windows to be similar, so it's not a second house necessarily, but it's just a complementary building then. So that they're a pair, right?
Yeah.
They're a pair, and you can say, oh, that's one property, that's a complementary building to the main building.
Well, so if you have a house with a 12 pitch roof, I have a 12 pitch roof, if I want to build an accessory building, you know, I'd want a 4 pitch with a metal roof, you know, but I would have the colors still match.
Sure.
You know, like, so, I don't know.
This doesn't require the roof to match.
Okay.
It's a consideration for complementary. So if someone comes in and they don't want to do 12-12, we're not going to say no, as long as the rest of it looks okay. But that's one of the things that could make it complementary is, you know, the roof pitch.
Gotcha.
Thanks.
Thank you. Additional comments from the public? There are no comments? Great. Did you want to come up and talk?
I just had a question, Sean, did you say that, you have to have 3 acres and it can't be in a subdivision?
Yeah, so for a detached accessory dwelling unit, you have to have 3
For a
acres and
detached.
can't be. If it's attached, then that doesn't apply.
Okay.
Further public comments? There's no public comments. I'll go back to the Village Board and Plan Commission. Any additional comments?
I was reading Attorney Macy's comments here. He said, you know, about additional conditions, taking out the basement is an additional
But it's a
condition.
change. It's a change.
Well,
You wanna
he's
look-
got it worded here, it's just additional conditions.
It
Say,
does, but again, Mike's condition would be additional.
we said we changed the wording a little bit, I wanted to affect
Yeah.
additionally get approved.
Oh,
sooner.
yes. I'm not Attorney Macy, but I can hear John saying. You just the only reason you want to be as transparent, you want to be as open as possible of what we're looking to do. And it's just a month. Because
The argument, I guess the argument is this, is that somebody knew there was gonna be a public hearing, they went online, they found the packet, they looked at it, they were okay with everything as written, but now we changed something, they weren't here to speak on it, on the potential change, and so that's, whether you add something or subtract something, that's the argument.
And Sean, when you do that, you do it in a different color so they could see what the changes were suggested,
I could highlight in some way the changes that came out from tonight. Sure.
just so it's. Anything else, Plan Commission or Village Board? Okay, you sure? Mike?
I guess I'll point out, because it kind of came up at the end, but just to let everybody else know, this is taking care of the attached dwelling unit that right now our code kind of has unenforceable and just doesn't work with how we as the Plan Commissioner Board seem to think, oh, that's how it should work. So I think it's important to get that language in here as well, and this does that.
Thank you, Mike. So there's no more comments from the Plan Commissioner Village Board. Is there any final comments from the public? There are no final comments. Brad, and you said you did not get any emails?
I did not.
And I did not either, so I just wanted to. And then Erica, if you want to tell Jane if she could put her comments in writing, because the properties that you're speaking, all those properties, remember I told you that we had farms that had it was the hired man or the hired family, those are all those properties. They were part of the original big farm when it was a big farm. I mean, we have a couple other ones too that aren't part of a farm, but they exist in Vernon. So what I would do right now is I'd entertain a motion to adjourn this public hearing to November 13th at 6 p.m. Is there a second to my motion? Second by Commissioner Rinaldi. Is there a discussion on the adjournment motion?
You said the 16th?
13th.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
November 13th at 6 o'clock. Discussion? Discussion, hearing none. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So I just wanted the public to know that we will continue this public hearing next month at 6 o'clock. And then Sean, you're going to make those changes, and Brad, you're going to post those changes?
Yeah, if I could add one thing, Mike specifically, we'll obviously take the condition out about the basements. Mike, if you have any suggestions about language, about the conversions. If you could get it to me, that'd be helpful. Otherwise, I can draft something, but then we can't change it at the meeting.
And Dan, you're gonna get the typos?
Yeah, Dan, if you have the typos as well, thank you.
Yeah, because you want,
Want a nice and clean version for next
yeah,
time.
because we do that in the newsletter all the time. Yeah.
Maybe one last question on, Sean, on, so beyond the residential districts themselves,
Mhm.
or refer to a dwelling unit,
Yeah.
does that also include an ADU? Where we require, open space?
I'm sorry, which portion are you referring to?
No, like 34, 30, 334, 36, well, it starts with 30, I believe.
What starts with it?
When we're discussing dwelling units, say,
There's a few lines about open space.
300.
Oh, you mean at the end, the districts
Yeah,
themselves?
right.
Yes, they count toward, yes, open space per dwelling unit,
So you
so
would need that open space for the principal residence and the EDU.
you would, unless we change it to something else, unless we exempt the ADU.
So let's say under suburban estate, 332 requires open space of 75,000 square feet, yeah, you would have to double that.
Right, but, you know, that district requires, what does suburban estate require? That's 3 acre minimum lot size anyway, so you're probably gonna meet it regardless.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, I mean, let's look at a couple of other ones, like for R1 is a 1 acre minimum lot size, so we're saying 30,000 square feet, which means you couldn't do it on a 1 acre lot, you'd have to have like an acre and a half to be able to do that accessory dwelling unit on that
Well,
one, in R1.
Even if it's attached.
Right. So you couldn't do it on a 1 acre lot, but if you had R1, 1.5 acres, you'd have enough open space to be able to do it, so. I don't know, what are your thoughts on that?
But if it's attached, it would just be one dwelling unit.
No, it would be a second dwelling unit. Because we're defining dwelling unit. An accessory dwelling unit is a dwelling unit.
Okay.
So, and it's a good thing you brought this up, I mean, because I assumed we were going to require that open space per dwelling unit, but if you think there should be a break on the accessory dwelling unit.
Well, we're done with the public hearing now, so you're gonna have to bring it up at the next public hearing. I closed, we adjourned it, so.
If you put on an addition just for your mother-in-law, and she's got a bedroom and a sitting area there and a bathroom, is that considered a dwelling unit?
No, a kitchen and a would basically be a second dwelling unit.
Okay, so just so everybody knows, we're gonna talk about this on November 13th at 6 o'clock. All right?
We vote on it?
No, yeah.
At plan commission level,
You want two motions?
plan commission level, I would think both, since it is a joint
So
public hearing.
I made the motion for the plan commission, in discussion related to my motion to adjourn to the 13th for the plan commission only. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Village board, I'm gonna make the same motion. Is there a second to my motion? Seconded by trustee Newman. Discussion from the village board. Discussion, hearing none. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. So we are adjourned from the plan commission and village board to November 13th at 6 o'clock. Alrighty? So the next agenda item we have, Mr. Anderson, would you like to come forward? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And just so you know, if you want to add more comments, you can still give comments to Brad or I, or... All right?
And I just want to add one more thing too, I guess, if plan commission's board members have additional comments before the public hearing, as I'm drafting this, you can still get them to me.
Okay, guys? Thank you all for your comments and coming.
Thanks.
The next agenda item, is it Doug or is it Dan?
It's Doug.
This is, let's see, what else is-
Number 7.
Didn't he just have a sign?
Yes.
The sign, is the sign next?
Oh, here it is, yeah, he's on 7, okay. This is a discussion and possible action, a request from Mr. Doug Anderson for the property owned by Miller Pipeline LLC located at South 74 West 24255 National Avenue, tax key number VNT 2053997-003, to reface a monument sign. Sean, you want to?
Yeah, this is gonna be very simple. Brett, you wanna click on that? Back in 2021, Hydro-X was approved for a contractor's yard on National Avenue. Along with that, we approved a sign for them as well, which was this. It's a freestanding monument sign. It meets all the requirements of the ordinance. All they're doing, per our approval last month, the property is now owned by Miller Pipeline. We approved a conditional use permit for the expansion of the business under Miller Pipeline. They're just refacing the exact same sign. It's internally illuminated. It will be the same size. Here's the old sign, shown smaller, but here's the face of the new sign. So this does require village approval, village board approval, after recommendation from the plan. Oh, I'm sorry, this is only plan commission approval. So this is not village board, just plan commission. So I do have a couple conditions in my staff report that complies with the ordinance, that it's constructed as presented to date, they get the appropriate permits and pay on the outstanding professional fees.
Doug, is there anything you wanted to add to Sean's comments?
I think you captured it perfectly.
Thank you, sir. And Sean, once again, great planner report. Plan Commission discussion, do you have any questions of our planner or Doug Anderson? I know it's pretty simple.
It was a very attractive sign, and I think that's gonna continue, so I don't see any reason to deny it.
It's a very attractive business. Is there a motion from the Plan Commission to concur with the planner's comments dated October 9th, 2023, as the 4 conditions, right, Sean?
Just the 4 conditions, right?
I will so move.
It was made by Commissioner Nowak. Is there a second to the motion? Second by Commissioner Rinaldi. Discussion from the Plan Commission. Discussion, hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried unanimously. Doug, you're on your way. Happy signage.
Very much.
So I'll issue the zoning permit for that, and you can get your building permit from Vince.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and submit the order. I think it's gonna take several weeks, and then I'll stop back up. Hopefully, we can maybe get that permit.
Yeah, you don't need a zoning permit application because tonight essentially covers that. You just get the building permit that Vince would require. Not even sure if this requires a building permit for the sign face change or not. Just asking us.
Very good.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you for sitting for that public hearing, too. That was.
Well, you know, I've gotten to go first quite a few times.
Thank you,
very
Doug.
much, everyone.
Take care.
Thank you.
The next agenda item we have is a request from Dan Lockram for the property owned by Norris Foundation and Norris Incorporated, located at W247 South 10395 Center Drive, Mukwonago, Wisconsin, identified by tax key numbers VNT 2145999-002, 2150997-002, 2123-993, 2123-991. This is a biggie. 2150998-001, 2150998-002. Property with proposed amendments to 2150998-003, 2152999, 2155999, 2155998. As you can tell, this is a big property. Let's see, amend the site plan operation for the overall operation and modifications to the Fannie Wells Norris Cottage. Mr. Lockman, are you here? Mr. Lockman, do you have people that you want with you up at the, we can add a bunch of chairs.
Really good answer any questions.
There's some questions that I think it's pretty straightforward.
Dan, what I was gonna do is, have the planner, give an overview of what your request is, and if you believe Sean has missed anything, or if there's something you wanna add, but I wanted to say before Sean starts, you did a great job putting together, and Sean, just so you know, I got that to the fire department because, not that you'll ever have a fire, but I mean, you did a really nice, yeah, I thought it was really laid out nice, but I'll defer to our planner. Sean?
Yeah, thanks. So as I understand it, Norris has been here for a long, long time. My only experience with the property is, I don't know, a couple of years ago, we looked at some CSMs for Norris that were split off, and some of the properties to the north side of Forest Home were sold. They've also sold some of their other holdings. I think at one point the property was over 900 acres. I think it's down to about 600 now. based on my estimations. But at the center of Norris is the Norris Adolescent Center. They provide other services as well. Nonprofit organization offering services to children and families throughout Wisconsin since 1917, including a residential treatment facility, educational and recreational space, etc. So they've been here for a long time. What precipitates them coming forward now is essentially some changes to what's called the Fanning Wells Cottage. It includes offices, meeting rooms, storage. They're looking at 12 dormitories, kitchen and dining, lounge, day, room space. The remodeling itself will be replacing doors and windows, replacement of the exterior porch, replacement and redesign of the exterior deck, reorganization of some of the spaces, and then the restroom shower facilities. So it's pretty simple. Most of it's internal remodeling, but the reason we're requiring the site plan of operation is a couple things. One is because some of the improvements are actually outside, so the deck changing outside does require a site plan of operation amendment, even though it's very minor. But things have changed a lot since last time this was came forward for site plan of operation review. 1992, there was a major approval, and in 2004 there were some amendments as well. So in the application itself, they've outlined everything that was approved at the time, and then Dan was kind enough to go through and essentially mark everything up that has been changed. Again, through some of the properties have been sold over the years, and some things have essentially downsized and other things. So we just wanted an accurate record of what's out there now and what's been approved. There was an old map that was included as part of the old submittals, and they've essentially developed, and this isn't obviously very accurate in terms of scale and so on, but it does give you a sense of where everything's at, where all the building's at, and this keys to what's been submitted in terms of the plan of operation to what's out there. Here's the Fanning Wells building, and then in this particular map, north is to the left. So in the staff report, I've outlined, based on the petitioner's application, the things that are changing. It doesn't substantially change the way the plan operates or the property operates, but it is now an accurate estimation of all things that are going on in the property. Property is zoned, essentially, just for everyone's knowledge, you can see the property here if you turn on the zoning. It's a combination of P1, public and institutional zoning, which is the blue, which kind of encompasses all the buildings and the surrounding land, and then the AD10, which encompasses most of the land that's either farmed or is environmental features on it. So that's not changing, that remains. Everything going on in the property is permitted in the P1 zoning district. So essentially, there's a series of conditions here, including the changes to the plan of operation, but I don't really have anything else to add.
Great. Dan, did you want to add any comments to Sean's comments of the Plan Commission report?
Thank you. No, I appreciate Sean and I went back and forth, and it was really just cleaning this thing up, because the last time it was updated, it was 92. So there've been a lot of changes, buildings sold, torn down, whatever, and added. So I just appreciate being in front of the board saying thank you. Pretty simple. We're not changing the footprint of the building at all, other than possibly the deck and ADA ramp. So.
I know, I just want to tell you, John and Noel took me on an ATV, and she took me that property. I mean, we didn't do a whole 900 acres, but it's unbelievable in the history. In fact, I am going to have, here's my commercial, she's going to come in and do like a little oversight of the history. I thought I knew a lot about this property until it's unbelievable, the history and the properties. I'd love the Plan Commission. Of course, we don't have an ATV that big, but it'd be nice for everybody to see that property.
We have a few coming out.
Beautiful property.
Beautiful property, yeah.
I had the opportunity to go through there probably about 4 months ago. In fact, you may know one of the gentlemen that you recall, Jack Fletcher.
I do.
You do?
Sure.
I'm good friends with his son Peter, and he used to live on the property.
Sure.
When he came to visit me, we took a ride around that whole complex.
Sure,
So he
I'm
could
Dave
reminisce.
Tuttle. I grew up with Peter, so
Oh,
yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, and yeah, he was a teacher that lived on the campus.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, just incredible. Like I said, I wanted her to come in and just give just the history, how it ties into the city of Milwaukee, and I mean, what Norris does there, I'm really proud of it, sorry.
Yeah, I played volleyball there probably 60 years ago.
60 years ago.
Did you win?
I think so.
I'm sorry, Dan, we digress. Any questions or concerns
Yeah.
from the Plan Commission or Village Board? What the Plan Commission would be making a recommendation, the Village and Village Board would be concurring, but at this point, just for discussion, is there any questions or that you have for Dan or Sean? I mean, and Sean's report is great, his 10 conditions are laid out perfectly. So for the sake of timing, I'd make a motion to approve the site plan of operation as presented to the Village Board and Plan Commission with the 10 conditions as stated in the planner's letter dated October 9, 2024. Is there a second to my motion?
Second that.
Second by Commissioner Nowak. Discussion from the Plan Commission. Discussion, hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Is there a motion of concurrence from the Village Board as stated? That motion was made by Trustee Newman. Is there a second to the motion? Second by Trustee Finch. Discussion from the Village Board. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank
Dan, you're
you all very
done.
much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Brad, thank you very much.
Yeah?
You have a nice evening, gentlemen.
Thank you.
So, we have, I have nothing on the President's report. We're in Plan Commission minutes. Are you gentlemen on the agenda for anything? Thank you.
I sent an email for the farmland. Spoke on
I'm sorry, for which one?
the Castle Road to the golf course.
What's your name?
Dan Majeski.
Yeah, we did talk about it, remember?
Yeah.
I don't remember ever saying for sure you're coming forth with a conceptual, I just don't recall. I mean, I know we talked about the property. I thought you said you were gonna get back and let us know what you wanted to do.
I sent you an email on September 16th back to the clerk with the layout, the plans, and everything that you wanted me to do a rough map.
Did you copy me then?
I did not.
Okay.
I apologize.
Did you do a application and?
So just for everyone's benefit, we did speak on it, we talked about the conceptual development of it, we had a meeting. After the meeting, we talked about, you went back and you were gonna think about things, and if you're gonna be on the agenda, you're gonna prepare some materials, which it sounds like you did. So that's where we're at. So we're talking about conceptually, essentially. We obviously can't talk about it tonight because it's not on the
Right.
agenda.
Could you make the 13th of November?
I could, but this is the other realtor on the property. I need information before I move forward, even purchasing the 200+ acre property.
Right. The only other thing we could do is have a special meeting. Yeah, but we can't do anything tonight.
Right, we can't, we could, right, we have to do that outside of this meeting.
We could do a little Zoom meeting.
How about if I'll have Brad, you've
Right.
got all the information?
Yeah, because we need to get an application first.
Right.
I think, based on this email I just sent to you and Sean, I would say this might be something that at least Sean would want to review prior to putting on an agenda, and then from there, Sean could provide some input as to whether or not, something need to be tweaked, and if so, then that's gonna dictate when a meeting would be had, if it would be prior to November 13th. But I think with,
Did you email him an application?
I'd have to go back and look.
Or could you, just so because we always have an application, because you're just going under an other, you're not,
It's just
a concept.
Right, and so I guess speaking of Brad's point about conceptual review, yes, I'll obviously review it and prepare my comments, but I don't know necessarily, I may suggest it be tweaked before the meeting, but it doesn't necessarily have to be tweaked before the meeting, because it's just another feedback.
So what would happen is Brad would see the availability. I mean, I wouldn't have any objection of doing a Zoom meeting, you know, sometimes, except here, especially for a concept. It's not like you're doing a subdivision plan or anything right now.
Not right now.
Right,
Zoom meeting sometimes lends itself to everyone looking at a map together.
right. Does that work for you,
I just
gentlemen?
think it's something that, you know, if it takes 20 minutes, why drag everybody out here
Right.
as well?
I mean, and the public is more than welcome. Brad, you know, publishes that. So what I'll have Brad do is email you the application, and then he'll start the coordination of the Zoom meeting. Does that sound good?
Sure.
And the sooner the better, it obviously
Yeah.
sounds like.
Yeah, for both of you, right?
I'm the listing broker.
Okay. All right, gentlemen, otherwise, it's not on the agenda, otherwise I can't even put it under my president's report. Thank you, gentlemen. And my apologies.
You said you don't know golf course, right?
Hope he wants to buy it.
He's excluded, so off the listing, right? Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Minutes, what would you gentlemen like to do with minutes?
Are they ready?
I emailed my changes. Mike, did you find any more changes?
All the changes that you emailed me should have been in those minutes.
One of them wasn't even completed. I think it was, I don't remember which one it was.
Yeah, there's a handful that have that, especially towards the end of them.
I found a couple minor mistakes, nothing. First, second, good.
I'd have to go, I can't even, my packet isn't working.
Yeah, I thought the first set of minutes, I didn't find any mistakes. And the ones after that, there were a few.
Are you talking about October 11th?
The very first one back, yeah.
Then it should have been in order.
Here we are.
I'll defer to the plan commission first and then the village, or whatever you want to do.
I guess my question just in general would be, are we supposed to be going through these to draft them or spell check them? Because I guess my concern is when I'm looking at what we were given in the hard copy, there's almost as much red as there is black. I think that we should get a clean version that we're able to review. Because I do have some content stuff that I want to address, but, you know, I don't know how everybody else feels about it, but going back to October of '23 to go through minutes, I don't know, what is our expectation for when minutes are done and how they're presented to us? Are we supposed to be drafting them? Because that's what it seems to be turning into.
Done whatever you want done. I mean, there was one where, like I said, I don't know, one that we adjourned it and it wasn't, the minutes were incorrect, I don't know.
I mean, by law, Mike, all that needs to be in the minutes is the motion that is made. But
Yeah, and I guess that's what I'm asking everybody else, because if everybody else is, I mean, then we can just go through and look for grammar. But otherwise, it just seems like we're taking the agenda and making it from future tense to past tense and then calling it a day. Like, I think there's some that have discussion that I think should be baked into the minutes, because I think the attorney keeps talking about, you know, I don't know a good way to say this, but making sure that we have our ducks in a row, I guess, and we try to be very careful with things. And then if somebody would go to our minutes to see what we did, we would look just like we did to this petitioner here, where we look like we're not, like, if somebody would read this as it's presented and say, Mike, did you approve this? I said, they would look at the roll call vote and say, yeah, you did. And I'd be like ashamed of saying that I had to approve it. I don't know, maybe that's just me and.
Well, I know Macy used to always give me grief if I didn't have narrative, oh. So I don't know, if Brad's right, I mean, legally, when you do minutes, you can just have information saying Plan Commission and Village Board discussed this item. They really can go back to the meeting and listen to it on YouTube. But I know, what's his name, Macy used to, drag me, he used to say, you need to put information. And that's why I used to copy all of Sean's comments into the minutes, because you couldn't get more information than our planner provides. If there was substantive, it was changed too. I don't, whatever you guys want to do.
And there should have been clean copies of the minutes in the packet. Because last time.
Yeah, I was just going off of the hard copies that we were given at the last meeting.
So President Chu gave us those at the last meeting. The minutes in the packets included those changes to them, and they're clean. They should have been clean versions in the packet.
Yeah, and I guess so. Just for example, like today was a public hearing. We have the sign-in sheet. Do we take that sign-in sheet and say who signed in to a public hearing and then who spoke at the public hearing?
In the minutes, we just put who spoke.
I would put the address.
Not to incorporate, the documentation that they have there into something.
Well, a lot of times they don't sign in.
Yeah, and we can't help if they just come into the audience. But I know I signed in to that. Sometimes I talk, sometimes I wouldn't talk, back. I just wonder why it wouldn't be a common practice for us to do that if we say in the minutes, public was there, doesn't that substantiate? Someone comes back and say, you guys did this without anybody. Well, no, here's the sign-in sheet. Anybody had a chance to talk. These 5 people showed up. These 2 people talked. I
think we try to reflect in the minutes if there were no public comments. I think that's really important. If there was no public comments on something.
Right, yeah, and I think that, I don't know, again, maybe I'm just worrying about something that I shouldn't worry about, but if I put my name on it, I could abstain from voting on them, I'm fine with that, but.
Mike, you can always, like I said, you can always ask to add something to the minutes that's
But
not.
that's where I get back to, are we doing the job of the person who's supposed to be taking the minutes? Like, if we give someone the direction of how we want the minutes to be taken, then, and again, if we just want the agenda item and who voted what, then that's fine, just so that everybody's on the same page to know, am I reading this for content? Am I reading this for grammar? If this is on this side of the table, what are we looking for in these?
Like I said, I don't think legally. I know what Macy always told me. I don't think that's legal. I mean, minutes aren't legal. They're not verbatim. So.
I don't ever recall having minutes on what the public has said at an open hearing.
Oh, it should be. At a public hearing, you should put something about what the public comments, what they were about.
I mean, Mike, I think the minutes that are done here are in the different communities I've worked in. I've seen it where communities will just put motions and what it pertains to, like President Chu said, the conditions in the planner's reports or something like that. I've seen it as little as that to meet the requirement, and I think here, we're maybe more at the far end of putting in detail. I mean, you can always put in detail. Minutes, if the Plan Commission Village Board want, we can have minutes be verbatim or as close to verbatim as possible, but it just comes direction from the Village Board and Plan Commission as to what they want in the minutes and what you guys want me to put in there. So if there, back to your original question, Mike, if there's something that you want added, like you said something or you thought this comment was missed or incorrect, that's more than welcome to request that to be put in or have that added to the minutes. That's not things there, like you said, it's, the minutes are meant to be for somebody who wasn't at the meeting to look and see what was done at the meeting.
So would the minutes from today say, Commissioner Nowak raised questions regarding the owner occupancy language? To show that that was discussed at this meeting, showing that we were aware of it, that it was something that was talked about, is that something that would be pertinent to someone coming back and looking to see, hey, did they do their due diligence, didn't they? I think what Dan was asking at that point was, should that stuff be kind of read into the record, for lack of a better word? Not necessarily written into the code, but just, hey, should we put this out there? And again, if I just need to abstain from voting for it, that's fine, but it's just, I can't vote in favor of what we've been presented with these. And I said, again, going back to October of '23, and we're...
Yeah.
What has been the policy in the past, Karen?
I don't know what other, I can give you examples of what other clerks have done, but it's all over, it's really what the clerk does.
It should be up to the staff and the attorney to work out something on that.
I mean, I know on a public hearing, I know Macy always felt it was very important, especially if you're adjourning to, if somebody brought a point of changing or adding to the ordinance, we always put that in, so we have some documentation besides the YouTube as to why Sean's doing some additions or corrections. But we didn't put the public comments verbatim, we just put the, what they spoke upon or in favor of, or,
Mike, a prime example of like tonight's meeting, the public comments from the gentleman whose father or father-in-law just passed away, that comment, I'm probably not going to add to the minutes because I don't think it adds any substance to somebody who's looking at the future, but the substance to his comment without, going back and listening to it specifically was, he was in favor of how it was written and the intent of how it was written. So that's the message I'm going to try to get across to kind of summarize it. Like I said, I don't do verbatim minutes. Some municipal attorneys will say do put as, I don't say as least as possible in there, but just put the motion and that's it. Others, like Attorney Macy will say, add stuff in the minutes that are done here, I think are similar to how the minutes are done for other clients he has.
So it would be like, again, the example of tonight, would the example be trustee or board member Millie's raised questions about the existence of a basement, discussion was had, Planner Malarkey was instructed to remove that from the next draft language.
Yeah,
I think that would be something that should be in the bid.
That's really, I think it's really important.
Yeah, I mean,
To say, this was what it was, now we're seeing it marked up, we can kind of document why that happened. As long as that's what we're given, but like from this stuff, I don't see how that tracks. But again, I don't want to be the annoying one on the group, but I figured I'd say it and see if anybody else agreed.
I agree with the point of, if it's pertinent to the discussion or if it's a change or an objection, I think that it should be noted, but like not verbatim and if you guys want to go ahead and approve whatever you want to do. Because we're pretty.
I thought the October 11th was good. I didn't find any mistakes in that one.
So are you making a motion to approve from the planning commission?
I'll make a motion to approve the October 11th minutes.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Nowak. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
Abstain. So it passes.
I think I have
Village
to
board,
abstain.
well, no, we haven't got to the village board yet. Is there a motion from the village board to approve the minutes of October, is it 11th or 13th?
Yes, 11th, so moved.
I'll
Is it-
second it.
Second by, motion was made by trustee Millies and second by trustee Finch. Discussion from the village board. Discussion, hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Are you abstaining? Or you
Abstain.
October 11th, 2020, you weren't on the board.
I wasn't on the board, I have to abstain, I would have to,
Motion passes, 2 abstained, and 3.
Yeah.
Any other minutes, guys, that you want to do?
The next one on page 95, motion was made by Commissioner Dan Rinaldi.
I highlighted those in my,
That was still us.
Well, they do share microphones.
So are you making a motion on,
Well, that's the change I found on.
What number is that?
what minutes are you talking about?
December.
No, December's not on the agenda. We can't do December, it's not on the agenda. Next one will be November 8th.
Oh, yeah, that was December 13th on that one.
Yep.
Was November 8th in the packet, Fred?
Should have been.
So we're on,
Yeah,
November.
November 8th is in the package. Page 99.
Is there a motion from the Plan Commission?
I thought there was a mistake in your somewhere.
I agree with you, Mike, it's hard to go through these with the small print and stuff, and
What Brad was saying is if you could look at what he put in the packet,
Yeah, the packet has the
it's
updated,
clean.
do you guys, I mean, do you guys just wanna table these till next meeting so you guys can go through them?
I think we'll have.
And then Mike, if you have any modifications, please send them over and I'm more than happy to add them to the minutes.
Does that work for everybody?
Yep.
I'll make a motion from the Plan Commission to table the rest of the minutes to our next meeting. Is there a second to my motion?
Second.
Is there discussion from the Plan Commission? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I'll make a motion to approve, table the village board discussion and approval of the minutes to our next November meeting. Is there a second to my motion?
Second.
Second by trustee Newman, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Make a motion to adjourn Plan Commission. Is there a second to my motion? You're not Plan Commission, sorry.
I always forget that.
Mike, Mario, is there discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all.
Can I have discussion?
Yes.
How do we keep this from happening?
What's that? Yeah.
Petitioners coming before, like,
I
where?
can't.
Well, in fairness, I mean, I wasn't copying the email, I didn't meet with him originally, but he didn't submit an application.
No.
He just submitted some concept drawings to Brad. It may have got lost in the shuffle, but he never submitted an application.
And I never heard back from him.
Yeah, and I think the
after.
problem is, when we were at the staff meeting level, we were talking how we want to, like, start this dialogue, and that's the type of stuff that we want to be able to have people come up, like Sean was saying, they don't have to have reviewed stuff that Sean agrees with, they just want to say, hey, this is what we're thinking, they want to get before us, there's no reason that they shouldn't have been up here talking today. But if they sent us an email in September, they should have been told at that time, here's the application, let's get you on the agenda. I just want there to be some accountability at some point. We already had a special meeting last month, right? From something that wasn't noticed, or a month and a half ago.
Right.
So it seems to be like a trend that, like, we look like, we're, just like I said with this, we look crazy because we don't even know how to run things, and they're right. So I'll stop talking, but.
And I just wanted to say, I was at the staff meeting when Brad and Sean and I talked with that gentleman, and I know he was told that he had to file the application.
Yeah, we told him to come back, and when he was ready to talk about it, and so we gave him advice, he submitted it. He should have got a response, obviously, but, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I never had any other contact with him, Mike, after that, and Mike, I have 3 part-time staff in my office, I'm down 2 other staff positions that should be filled. It's just a matter of, there's not enough staff in my office to do everything, and that puts additional stress on myself and additional staff in the office, and this is what happens at the end of the day.
Further discussion on Plan Commission adjournment, is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Make a motion to adjourn the village board. Is there a second to my motion? Second by trustee Newman, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you, gentlemen. You poop, John?
No, I'm good. What did you want to talk about?
If we would have to put, or